uncover that, yes, science is littered throughout the scriptures, no matter what the heathen says about our history book. We will prove that Yah's word is the only truth left in the world. Not only that, but we will prove that the heathen sciences are cheap imitations of what is written within scripture. We are going to read a story about Granddad Jacob and his journey from humble servant to the master of his own house. Within this story, we will prove that what you see can change your DNA and the DNA of your children. Are any of y'all familiar with the study of epigenetics? According to the National Human Genome Research Institute, their definition of epigenetics, which was updated on October the 10th, 2024, states, quote, epigenetics, also sometimes called epigenomics, is a field of study focused on changes in DNA that do not involve alternations to the underlying sequence. The DNA letters and proteins that interact with DNA can have chemical modifications that change the degree to which genes are turned on and off. Certain epigenetic modifications may be passed on from parent cell to daughter cell during cell division or from one generation to the next. The collection of all epigenetic changes in a genome is called an epigenome, end quote. Before we get to the reason why this information is important, I want to show you and give you this reality about the people Yah cursed to be over us. They don't have wisdom nor understanding. Deuteronomy 28th chapter. Yes, they do have intelligence and knowledge, but it is the wisdom and understanding that they are lacking. This clip of our distant, very distant cousins, the Aboriginal Hamites, are showing a university-educated and employed professor how to jump the correct way. They were able to learn this without the fancy degrees that the beige man glorifies so much, as if a piece of paper can determine how smart or intelligent a person is or can become. All wisdom and knowledge comes from the Most High. He is the source of all creation. You can obtain one of these worthless degrees trying to learn to do the exact same thing that these Hamites have learned for tens of thousands of dollars of debt, and you'll still not know how to do the same thing that these Hamites have known from the days of old. Could this be an example of that nation who Yah himself says has no understanding? That could only mean that nation taught us lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no true profit. The Most High is the first and greatest scientist that has ever been. Look at the complexity of the human body and all the different creatures on the earth, and there is no way you can't see nor believe that the Most High Yah is the greatest scientist and intellectual mind to ever do it. He thought of everything, even the animals whose sole purpose is to clean the earth, from the swine, shrimp, oysters, and even the vultures. There's even a vulture that swallows bones whole. To put it simply, the Most High Yah is the Most High Yah. His glory and righteousness is upon all the natural beauty of this earth.
It is under a special microscope and showing the moment of conception. The very moment that the sperm enters the egg, there is a flash of light.
Turn to Genesis chapter 30 in the Septuagint, starting at verse 25. Genesis chapter 30, verse 25, quote, "And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, 'Send me away, that I may go to my place, and to my land,'" end quote. This proves that the Esau understanding is correct. Laban, the name of Granddad's father-in-law, means white. The same Laban as Snow, the Most High turned Uncle Moses' hand to. The same Laban, the Most High turned Miriam, Moses' sister, to after she transgressed. The Laban man is not Esau, nor Edom, for Esau means hairy and Edom means red, while Laban means white. The scriptures are seamless, aren't they? Sorry for that interruption. As the text will prove, after Granddad Jacob left Laban with many possessions, Granddad told his father-in-law, "Send me away, that I may go to my place and to my land, the land of Canaan, the land promised by the Most High Yah." We've all been here at a certain point. We all want to live life on our own and see what we can do in this world. Granddad Jacob was at this point here. Notice one thing, men of Israel. He wasn't 18, 19, 21, probably wasn't even older than 30 years old when he wanted his own house. Today, this man would have been ridiculed and called a loser, a deadbeat, or just trying to shack up. Remember, he had children at this time. Our current lives have been taught to us by wicked people who worship evil forces. Hence, why women want to be men and men want to be women.
Crucify him.
Verse 26, quote, "Restore my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, that I may depart. For thou knowest the service wherewith I have served thee." And Laban said to him, "If I have found grace in thy sight, I will argue well, for Yah has blessed me at thy coming in. Appoint me thy wages, and I will give them." And Jacob said, "Thou knowest in what things I have served thee, and how many cattle of thine are with me. For it was little thou hadst before my time, and it is increased to a multitude. And Yah Elohim has blessed thee since my coming. Now then, when shall I set up also my own house?" And Laban said to him, "What shall I give thee?" And Jacob said to him, "Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again tend thy flocks and keep them." End quote. Laban offered Granddad wages for tending his flock, but Granddad rebutted by saying, "Before I came, ye had little, and that little increased to a multitude. Yah Elohim has blessed thee at my coming in. Now, when shall I also set up my own house?" Granddad was tired of working and laboring for someone else's benefits. Hey, kind of like us in this last captivity, huh? Laban replies with, "What shall I give thee?" Granddad Jacob said nothing, "But if thou wilt do this one thing for me, I'll again tend your flock and keep them." This sounds familiar to what happened to Granddad Abram when Melchizedek tried to give him gifts after the war. He also declined, for Yah told him himself that he is his shield and reward. You hear that, Zion? The Most High is our shield and our reward. I know that the government has and are currently poisoning us very slowly, but they have never ever tried to pull a Hitler on us. Yah's promise and shield. Granddad Jacob prospered because he was faithful to the Most High in all his dealings. Let's continue to see what exactly Granddad's plan is. Verse 32, quote, "Let all thy sheep pass by today, and separate thence every gray sheep among the rams, and every one that is speckled and spotted among the goats. This shall be my reward, and my righteousness shall answer for me on the morrow, for it is my reward before thee. Whatever shall not be spotted and speckled among the goats, and gray among the rams, shall be stolen with me." And Laban said to him, "Let it be according to thy word." And he separated in that day the spotted and speckled he-goats, and all the spotted and speckled she-goats, and all that was gray among the rams, and every one that was white among them. And he gave them into the hands of his sons. And he set a distance of a 3 days' journey between them and Jacob. And Jacob tended the cattle of Laban that were left behind. End quote. So Granddad didn't want money from Laban, but livestock. Just as back in the day, as it is now, money is not everything. It can also be said that livestock is more valuable than money, even at this day. Continuing, Granddad and Laban came to an agreement. His reward would be the livestock of the goats and rams. Granddad Jacob took the leftover sheep who were not spotted, speckled, gray, nor white among the rams and goats. All the cattle given to the sons of Laban were spotted and speckled. Goats can be either male or female, and their young are called kids. Please stop calling your children or child kids. Kids are the young of cattle, not the young of man. Continuing, Laban also took the gray among the rams and every one white among the rams. Sheep can also be either male or female, but instead of calling them he-goats or she-goats like you would the goats, a male sheep is called a ram, and a female sheep is called an ewe lamb. Goats and rams/sheep cannot breed with each other. The beige man has already tried this out. The animal did become pregnant, but the embryo died before gestation. Even the animals know who they can and cannot mix with. Please remember that Granddad Jacob started with solid colored cattle, rather white, black, red, or some brown. Some of this is not quite clear to me, especially with the rams. The KJV says Laban took some that has white in them and all the brown among the sheep. Another version of the Septuagint, the Thompson translation, says Laban took every lamb grizzly or brown and a mixture of white, kind of like the animal you see here, that's brown with a mixture of white. The non-spotted and speckled goats and the rams who were not gray nor mixed with white were his control or baseline with his upcoming genetic experiment. He basically had unmarked cattle to breed with. Jacob went on a 3-day journey to put distance between himself and the sons of Laban so that he wouldn't be disturbed. Keep the phrase a 3-day journey in mind. I'll explain in a few sentences. Remember that Granddad said that the gray sheep among the rams with the spotted and speckled among the goats shall be his reward. These are the lambs that were separated from the flock that Granddad took and were given to the sons of Laban. 3 questions. How is Granddad going to get his reward with the cattle that he has? When you hear a 3-day journey, what's the first thing you think of? Lastly, what in the hell is he talking about, right? I can prove that the Most High told Uncle Moshe to lie to Pharaoh. Keep in mind, Uncle Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 7, and you can stop yelling liar at your screen.
Stop lying, boy, stop lying!
Uncle Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 7, quote, I am he that prepared light and formed darkness, who makes peace and creates evil. I am Yah Elohim that does all these things. End quote. I told you I wasn't lying. With that being said, how well do you remember the Exodus story? Exactly what did Yah tell Moshe to say to Pharaoh about his people? Exodus chapter 3, verse 6 through 8 and verse 10. Quote, and he said, I am the Elohim of thy father, the Elohim of Abram, and the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob. And Moshe turned away his face, for he was afraid to gaze at Elohim. And Yah said to Moshe, I have surely seen the affliction of my people that is in Mizraim, and I have heard their cry caused by their taskmasters, for I know their affliction, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Mizri, and to bring them out of that land, and to bring them into a good and wide land, into a land flowing with milk and honey. Verse 10, and now come, I will send thee to Pharaoh king of Mizraim, and thou shalt bring out my people, the children of Israel, from the land of Mizraim. End quote. The Most High sent Uncle Moshe to Pharaoh to bring his people out of Mizraim. Compare that to this. Drop down to verses 18 through 20 in Exodus chapter 3. Quote, and they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou and the elders of Israel shall go in to Pharaoh king of Mizraim, and thou shalt say to him, The Elohim of the Hebrews has called us. We will go then a 3 days journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to our Elohim. But I know that Pharaoh king of Mizraim will not let you go, save with a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand and smite the Mizri with all my wonders, and I shall work among them, and after that he will send you forth." End quote. This 3 days journey is said again in Exodus 5:3 and Exodus 8:27. Yes, the Most High Yah told Uncle Moshe to lie to Pharaoh, to tell Pharaoh a 3 days journey, to show his power and might not only to us, but also to the surrounding nations, declaring the end from the beginning. And if you think I'm misguided, refresh yourself with 1 Kings chapter 22, 19 through 23. And for a second witness, try 2 Chronicles chapter 18, verse 18 through 22. Short and sweet. Now back to Granddad and his genetic experiment. Verse 37, quote, "And Jacob took to himself green rods of storax tree, and walnut, and plane tree, and Jacob peeled in them white strips. And as he drew off the green, the white strips which he had made appeared alternate on the rods. And he laid the rods which he had peeled in the hollows of the watering troughs, that whensoever the cattle should come to drink, as they should come to drink before the rods, the cattle may conceive at the rods." End quote. Granddad Jacob committed genetic manipulation in his own version of natural and artificial selection. Natural meaning the sheep mated with who they wanted to. Artificial in the way Granddad manipulated the environment to get his desired outcome, stripping the rods. This is what they call epigenetics today, but it was already known by Granddad Jacob all the way back then. Granddad Jacob took the remnant of the sheep and placed rods or branches from 3 different trees and peeled white strips into them while drawing off some of the green, so that the white strips appeared to alternate on the rods. Then he laid the rods in the hollows of the watering troughs, so that when the cattle came to drink, that they may get their grooves back at the troughs. What could this possibly mean? I mean, why place strip rods in the watering troughs for the sheep to see before they ultimately conceive? Simple. That's because what you see can change your DNA. Not only that, but stress, trauma, what you eat, and just life in general can change your DNA and your children's DNA. As a matter of fact, there are certain genes or traits that can be turned on and off based solely upon trauma. This is why the U.S. government sanctioned and funded MK Ultra and other trauma-based mind control programs.
So you brought up MK Ultra.
Yes.
MK Ultra was a government program run by the Central Intelligence Agency. Originally started as something called Bluebird in 1948-49, morphed into Artichoke, and then in 1952 became MK Ultra. It was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control people's behavior without their knowledge. Now, this all came out in Senate and congressional hearings in the 70s. It was exposed, but nobody knew about it until 1974 when Seymour Hersh, the New York Times reporter, reported it on the front page of the paper. So their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command, popularly known as Manchurian candidates, after a book that was written in 1962 and later became a movie and then a movie again. The people would be, through drugs and hypnotism, the objective was to get people to go and commit an act of murder against their moral code and have no memory of their programming and be amnesic even of the act after the fact often. That was just that was their main goal.
I'm 100% sure all world governments have their own version of trauma-based mind control programs. Just look at what they did to Bill, I Love Pizza Clinton. They are reverse engineering the scriptures as you listen to this video. Verse 39, quote, So the cattle conceived at the rods, and the cattle brought forth young speckled, and streaked, and spotted with ash-colored spots. And Jacob separated the lambs, and set before the sheep a speckled ram, and every variegated one among the lambs. And he separated flocks for himself alone, and did not mingle them with the sheep of Laban. End quote. Our granddad changed the DNA of the sheep by controlling what they saw. The strip rods they saw from 3 different trees were the reasons why the pure white and the gray rams he started his experiment with brought forth the young speckled and streaked and spotted with ash-colored spots. If you can recall, Laban took the marked ones and gave them to his sons. Once again, for the people in the back, Granddad Jacob changed the DNA of their offspring by controlling what they saw.
Furthermore, poplar trees contain salicin, an anti-inflammatory related to aspirin. This species of poplar was the Populus alba. The almond tree is the Amygdalus communis. Notice that Jacob stripped them and placed them in the watering troughs, since the stripping of wood is simply a method of leaching the chemicals into the water. Thus, a fascinating 2008 paper by Joshua Bacon from the Department of Pharmaceutics at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem was written to showcase and examine this in light of recent advances in epigenetics. In this paper, Bacon showcases how prenatal nutrition can affect the agouti gene that regulates fur color in both sheep and mice. The fungi that resides in the bark of these specific types of branches and of poplar and almond provide the chemicals that comprise the exact amino acids to create alterations in the color of fur without having any direct effect on the DNA.
Zion, can you recall recessive versus dominant? We should all know that white in the context of skin color or the color of any animal's fur is a recessive trait, meaning once the dominant dark-skinned or dark-furred trait comes along, it will dominate the recessive trait. This goes for genes also. How did Granddad Jacob know about this before the white man's God, science and technology, and juggling JC was even known by the colors?
Juggling Jesus, boy, what's wrong with you?
That's just a joke, Uncle Bernie.
A joke? So you think Jesus is a joke? So Jesus is a clown now? People hate clowns.
According to their fictitious history, Aristotle, who lived from 384 to 322 BC, is considered the first scientist, along with Roger Bacon, Galileo Galilei, Albin al-Hayman, and Anaximander, none of which knew the Most High, nor did they have a fraction of the understanding Granddad Jacob had. According to their more recent history, Gregory Mendel, an Australian monk, is accredited with the discovery of what we call genes today in the 19th century or the 1800s. The term gene was coined by Danish botanist William Johannesson in 1909. The term epigenetics was first introduced in 1942 by Conrad Washington, a British developmental biologist, embryologist, and geneticist at Cambridge University. Genes control what is inherited from generation to generation. Color, rather hair, eyes, or skin, facial features, even skeletal structure, including generational curses. Could this be a reason why the Most High said that the curses would cleave to our bones? Because it is literally written within our DNA? Their version of history is one big ass lie. For instance, in 1981, the U.S. Surgeon General issued a public health warning that alcohol used by women during pregnancy was the cause of physical and mental birth defects. However, according to the Holy Tanakh, Judges chapter 13, verse 6 through 7, quote, And the woman went in and spoke to her husband, saying, A man of Elohim came to me, and his appearance was as an angel of Elohim. very dreadful. And I did not ask him whence he was, and he did not tell me his name. And he said to me, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bring forth a son, and drink no wine nor strong drink, and eat no unclean thing. For the child shall be holy to God from the womb until the day of his death. End quote. An angel of Yah came to Samson's mother and told her not to drink wine nor strong drink all the way back in the cut. It's like the Most High Yah knew that had some kind of bearing on the child's future. But the greatest beige man ever, the American beige man, didn't know this less than 50 years ago. I know that they suppressed certain stories to hide truths, but damn, rather they suppressed it, or them not knowing this before the 1980s is alarming to say the least. A nation with no understanding, not a single shred of it. Any light bulbs going off yet? This book is the only truth in this world. As we have just proven many times, they don't know a damn thing, rather biblically, spiritually, physically, or in the general sense of this world. They think we're on a globe when the scriptures clearly say that this earth has pillars. But we're still seeking their approval by showing them that we can vote for the right candidate and live to work and work to live, just like them. Further pushing ourselves away from true freedom and further pushing ourselves into what the scriptures call the furnace of affliction. Granddad Jacob separated his flock alone and did not allow them to mingle with the flocks of Laban for a very specific reason. Verse 41, quote, And it came to pass in the time wherein the cattle became pregnant, conceiving in the belly, Jacob put the rods before the cattle in the troughs, that they may conceive by the rods. But he did not put them in indiscriminately whenever the cattle happened to bring forth. But the unmarked ones were Laban's, and the marked ones were Jacob's. And the man became very rich, and he had many cattle, and oxen, and servants, and maidservants, and camels, and asses. Example. Why do you perceive I wanted to read this chapter to you, Israel? I did it because I wanted to show you that genetics don't lie. I wanted to show you that even in the days of old, taking in something daily would produce whatever you took in, literally. Just a question, could this explain all the so-called ratchetness rampant in the so-called black community? Everything considered cool among the colors is opposite of what the Most High commanded. From the music, style of dress, not just talking about the mixture of fabrics either, what y'all put on and in your bodies, and how we let others control and run our community, and also where we spend our time and energy. You are what you watch. You guys are looking at all these reality shows and then wondering why society is going downhill every single generation. You are what you watch. All those BS VH1 shows and whatever Tyler Perry slaps together doesn't seem so harmless now, does it? What happened to the Sanford and Sons, the Martins, the Living Singles, hell, even Family Matters? Netflix turned a classic show Good Times into a downright disgrace. You are what you watch. It seems like they only do this to one people in particular though. There are numerous studies that have figured this out, but the scriptures told us this from the very beginning. It didn't even matter what type of animal it was, their genetics were altered. You are what you watch. To further the understanding, if you're always around a liar, you will beget a liar. If you hang around whores, you'll eventually become a whore. If you hang with the drug dealers and the killers, that's right, you'll become a Chirac drill rapper. The scriptures say it more elegantly than I ever could. 2 Samuel chapter 22, verses 26 through 27. Quote, With the holy thou wilt be holy, and with the perfect man thou wilt be perfect, and with the excellent thou wilt be excellent, and with the forward thou wilt be forward. End quote. You are who you keep around you. Remember when I told you that Granddad started with all white or gray colored animals? Well, the phrase, the unmarked ones were Laban's and the marked ones were Jacob's, pretty much proves this, right? This proves that Granddad started with unmarked cattle that produce marked offspring by looking at the rods during conception. Notice, Granddad didn't get greedy. He didn't put the rods in the troughs all the times, so that some of the sheep would produce foals for his father-in-law as well, especially since it only takes sheep about 5 months to bring forth offsprings, so this can be repeated a bare minimum of twice per year. Now consider this. The kids of the lambs, goats, and rams were changed by alternating patterns on the rods. Zion, do you think our DNA can be changed based upon the trauma, stress, and psychological warfare that we've endured by the nations?
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
What I'm getting at, besides all the devices that the scriptures tell us that these nations are trying to do against us, how we go after and watch rap videos, stroll Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, looking for what y'all call the culture. Fighting, cussing for no reason, shaking your ass everywhere and for anything, weaving and sandaling it up, shout out O'Shea Duke Jackson. Sex, porn, and disease. Deuteronomy 28th chapter again. Every disease that is not written in the book of this law shall pursue thee until thou art destroyed. Are we not destroyed at this present moment? Houston is having an epidemic with STDs with a surge in HIV. And guess who is catching the majority of those cases? All of these things are changing your DNA and the DNA of your children based solely on what you see and do in your everyday lives while doing the do with your woman and while your woman is pregnant. The word of Yah is wisdom. What you see or do can change not only your very own DNA, but the DNA of your children as well. Let's finish this out with a quick summary. The Most High Yah made the works of Granddad's hands prosperous. He became very rich with cattle, oxen, servants, maidservants, camels, and asses, just as it is written in Genesis chapter 36, and the reason why he and his twin brother could not live together in the land of Canaan. They both were blessed by the Most High. This is one of numerous examples proving science and scripture go hand in hand. Zion, please be careful of what you're looking at and for, and what you give your time and energy to. It can literally change the genetics of the entire nation. If you can add to this, please do. If you can see somewhere where I'm wrong or somewhere I'm lacking, let us know in the comment section. Until next time, Zion, cry out to Yah Elohim and hallelujah, brothers and sisters. All praises to the Most High Yah.